to the UIAAA Connection podcast. GoFan and VNN are proud to be the exclusive sponsor of the UIAAA Connection. Now a combined company, GoFan and VNN provide a seamless integration for digital ticketing and athletic websites. Direct your fans to one place for all your athletic events, communications, and tickets to home and away games. Thank you to GoFan and VNN for their exclusive sponsorship of the UIAAA Connection.
Welcome back to another edition of the UIAAA Connection. I'm your host, Mark Hutch Hunter. Today we have as our special guest Jeff Lake, the Director of Athletics at Maple Mountain High School in Utah County. Welcome to the podcast, Jeff.
Hey, thanks, Hutch. Appreciate it.
Let's have you begin by sharing with our international audience where you grew up, where you went to college, your first job, those types of things.
Okay, so I grew up in Southern California and Utah. I kind of bounced around different places. My dad was a project manager, so we just went where the projects were. So up until about sixth grade, I lived in Alta Loma, Rancho Cucamonga, Victorville in California, then moved to Orem my seventh, eighth, and ninth grade year. Then moved back to California to Marietta, finished out my high school in Marietta, California. I went to school at Utah State, graduated with the social studies composite, PE minor, Spanish minor degree. Then got my first teaching job at Copper Hills High School back in 2007. Was there for 2 years and then came to Maple Mountain in 2009 when the school opened.
So you were at Copper Hills when I was still at Jordan and we didn't know each other, obviously.
So I actually took my fundamentals of coaching class from you.
Oh, wow. Okay. Well, thank you for reminding me. I've totally spaced that off.
Yeah. So I was when I was at Utah State, I did some coaching at Mount Crest, but it was part of my PE endorsement. So I was just doing all my hours. So I didn't have to, I guess, be certified then. But when I went to Copper Hills, they're like, oh yeah, you need to take this class and here's the information. Here's how you sign up. I don't even remember who the AD was at the time, but the head coach was Art Erickson. And he's like, oh,
Okay.
you'll like coaches. He's a good teacher. He's a good AD. You'll enjoy the class.
Well, that's very kind of you and very kind of Art to say that. Thanks for sharing that. So let's talk about your experiences in youth sports. Living in Victorville, you probably had plenty of opportunity up until the sixth grade in Orem in middle school. You probably had plenty of opportunity. So talk about it. Were you able to play some little leagues, some baseball, football, soccer, basketball?
So up to about sixth grade, I did mostly just soccer. So I did like AYSO, did baseball, City League baseball stuff in Alta Loma, Cucamonga, Victorville. When I moved to Utah, I had a bunch of friends at school that were playing football. So I begged my mom, who was she was a nurse, so she knew all the contact, impact football does, and she was very hesitant. But I didn't start playing football until I was in seventh grade. I joined the Mountain View High School feeder program for seventh, eighth grade year. And then moved back to California. I continued to play football in high school, played club soccer at that point. That's when club soccer kind of picked up. Played a little bit of basketball, and then I ran track from my ninth grade year, actually my seventh, eighth, ninth, and then into high school. I ran track, and that's how I kind of got to Utah State, was through track and field.
So you had a scholarship there?
It was like a half scholarship
Okay.
at Utah State, and I did that for a couple of years. Tore my meniscus, and my second year was kind of sitting around. I couldn't really do anything. My coach is like, hey, the Mount Crest is looking for some assistant track coaches. Would you be interested? I said, yeah, it's a lot better than sitting around here not doing anything. And so that's how I got into coaching was, well, through the PE endorsement, and then at Mount Crest, Lori Caraguli brought me on. She was the track coach at the time. Um, she brought me on, and then I kind of stayed on. That's where I met Art Erickson and started coaching a little bit of football in the fall, just kind of getting my hours for my PE endorsement.
What events did you run in track
I
or
was a
throw?
sprinter and
Okay.
jumper. So I did the 100, 200, 400, long jump. When I went to Utah State, I did triple jump, and that's where I tore my meniscus, was doing the triple jump.
Let me ask you a side question, only because my grandson, who's actually playing football at Utah State this year and last year, was the state 400 champion when he ran at corner. And I want you to talk about what a horrible race the 400 is to run.
So I was very adamant in high school that I was not going to run the 400. I told my coach there's no way in heck that I was going to do that race. It's the worst race for a sprinter. I'm only doing the one, the two. I'll do the 4x1. I'll do the long jump. Those are my four events. We happened to be at a meet, and one of our 400 runners um, tore his hamstring, and I was the only sprinter there. I didn't go home yet, and my coach walked up to me and said, "Hey, we need you to run the 4x4." And I was like, nope, not doing it. Sorry, coach. And he's like, well, we really need you. Brought the other three over. Hey, we really need you to run this. And I was like, all right, fine. Um, that's how I kind of started doing it. And then I started doing some open races, and I'm like, this is not as bad as everyone says it is. It sucks right at the end. Um, but it's actually a fun race to run. And a lot of kids just want to sprint the whole thing. But if you kind of break it up, and that's when I was coaching track, I kind of taught kids that there's four phases to the 400. And if you can understand those four phases, you can be a really good 400 runner. And while I was coaching here at Maple Mountain, we were lucky to have quite a few really good 400 runners. About 2 years ago, his name is Banks Jackson. He ran a eighth fastest time in the nation. He ran a 46:08, broke the state record. But it took him a
I
while.
remember seeing him at the state track meet.
Oh yeah, he was a phenomenal athlete. He's actually running for BYU when he gets off his mission. But he was just like me. I'm not running the 400. There's no way I'm running the 400. Started running it and started to love it. Fell in love with it, and I think while he's at Utah, or not Utah State, BYU, he'll probably be their best 400 runner.
That's great. Let's have you talk for a minute about some of the mentors and leaders you've had in your life that have made a huge difference for you.
Probably first is start off with my dad. My dad was my coach for everything: soccer, basketball, baseball, growing up. He was the commissioner of the AYSO League um, in Victorville for 4 years while we were there. Um, so he's probably one of the first people I would consider a mentor. Um, Probably my mom, just because she dealt with a lot of, helped my dad through a lot of things. I was lucky to serve under Dave Boyack. He asked me to kind of be his assistant. I want to say the third year the school was open. So I was assistant for 12 years. Um, and he was somebody, and I still call him about things all the time, just because of his experience and what he was able to do here. Um, he's probably another one of those mentors that I have, and then just other ads in the area, like Lee Gilly's been around for quite a few years, and I've talked to him about things. Jesse Roberts has been a good contact. He has a couple of years on me, but he still has dealt with a lot of different things. Mark Hunter, when I see him, I ask him a lot of questions. And so I think those are probably the biggest ones that have kind of had an impact on me since I started.
Great answer. Thanks for sharing that. Thank you for the compliment. Let's ask you a little bit of a personal question here, Jeff. What's your biggest failure or disappointment in life, and what did you learn from it?
Uh, that's the one we talked about before. It's I would probably say, like, thinking this over, um, probably early in my career as a coach, and as a teacher, just my interaction with kids and adults, how I communicated, um, probably was the one of the biggest failures that I had. And I was able to learn from those, having um, other teachers and coaches that have had years of experience, like um, Art Erickson, kind of going through different situations while he was at Mount Crest Copper Hills, um, him helping me with my communication. And then when I got here, Dave Boyack, um, Brad Birdshaw was our football coach here. He's somebody that I looked up to. His how he communicated with kids and parents is kind of where I made that transition. Um, and I think it's been so much better than the first probably 4 or 5 years that I was coaching and teaching. And then kind of using those same things that I've learned as an athletic director has been, especially in my first year with some of the things that we've had to deal with, has been beneficial.
Thank you for sharing that experience. Let's have you talk about the job of athletic administrator. How has it changed? Obviously, you were an assistant for Dave for all those years, and now you're in charge. How has it changed since you first got into athletic administration?
So I was just primarily, when I was Dave's assistant, I just did all like the technology stuff. So I did like website, social media. I didn't have a whole lot of interaction with um, parents other than just me as a coach. I was coaching football and track and soccer during those years, and um, jumping into the role this year full time has kind of been eye opening. Um, Dave got me into taking some of the classes. I started taking them in around 2020 is when I first started taking classes. I did the 501, 502 classes, and those were eye opening as far as the role and responsibility of an athletic administrator. Um, and then actually doing it for a year was eye opening. I don't think a lot of people understand and really know what the role and responsibility of an athletic administrator is, and so they kind of think it's kind of a glorified supervisor job when it's way more than that. And I think as things change, it adds responsibilities, um, depending on like state legislatures, um, federal laws that come in. It's kind of a always changing role, and um, you have to know those things to be able to help the kids, the coaches, and parents understand um, what your role is and um, what responsibilities that you have. There's the legal classes blew my mind. I'm glad I took all. Was it four of them? And I'm no more legal classes. The, those kind of scared me as far as like, oh crap, we're not doing this. We're not doing this. Need to change this. Um, so I think, um, yeah, since I started full time from last year to this year, there's still lots of changes.
Let's have you talk about your journey with the UIAAA. I'm fairly certain I know the answer, but talk about how you heard about it and how you became involved.
So yeah, it was Dave kind of telling me, Boyack, that if I wanted to possibly take over for him when he retired, if admin picked me, that I needed to get involved. I needed to get my CAA license. Um, so I kind of slowly started taking one class at a time. So I joined the UIAAA in 2020, started taking classes. I was taking like maybe one a year. And then this last April, at the state convention, at the state conference, I took the CAA exam and passed. Um, so that's kind of just in the last 5 years, that's been my journey with the UIAAA. I'd like to get more involved if I can. Um, but I think being at two state conferences, being at one national conference last year, um, I love the collaboration and um, seeing the similarities that everyone faces.
Let's have you talk for a minute about the recent conference in Austin, your first national. Talk about if it was an eye opener, was it what you expected? Was it more? Was it less? Talk about that first time experience.
Um, it was eye opening just how kind of busy it is with all the classes, the seminars, um, and then I went to there was one seminar where it was the first, I think it was first 3 years. So if you're in first 3 years as an AD, um, you kind of talk shop basically, like what issues you had, how'd you solve them, and then that's where seeing that there's a lot of similarities nationwide with um, different issues, whether it's parent issues, referee issues, administrative issues, scheduling issues, that they're all the same. And um, I enjoyed all the classes that I had and the seminars that I went to because I was able to bring back a lot of things and implement those. But it was eye opening just how big it was and how many people actually attend the national conference.
Yeah, thanks for sharing that insight. Let's have you talk about your observations of the Maple Mountain athletic program. Now, of course, you were in the background for so many years coaching. Now you're the AD, and of course, you followed a legend, Dave Boyack. And so,
Yeah.
talk about the program at Maple Mountain.
I think we have a lot of good programs. We've been able to win several region championships, state championships. I think the kids are we have a large number of our population that are involved. It's probably, if I remember right, between 45 and 50% of our population plays at least one sport or does one activity. Um, so we have a lot of participation, a lot of kids involved. Um, and the kids kind of make the program. You have coaches that come in and coach and administer a program, but the kids actually make the program. And that's my observation of all of our athletic programs and activities here is the kids um, put in what they want out of it, and they understand that the more they put in, the more they're going to get out of it. Um, and kind of the biggest example was during COVID, where um, we were kind of shut down, and that football season, like we couldn't have anything here at the school, we couldn't organize anything, but the kids took the initiative, and they organized workouts, they organized practices, um, and that was the year that we made it to the semifinals for football. Um, and I think a lot of it had to do with how involved those kids were in the initiatives that they had and their willingness to do more. And you see that a lot with all of our athletic programs and activities. Um, it's all based off the kids and what they put into it. That's what makes a lot of our programs successful.
Excellent. As one of the most recent certified athletic administrators in Utah, I want you to speak about the importance of becoming certified and the journey you went through to get that.
I think it's extremely important just because um, it comes with a lot of classes, a lot of information. You're drinking from fire hose, especially the legal classes. And I think it's important that you have at least the CAA license um, as an athletic administrator, because the knowledge that you get from the classes and the conferences um, kind of helps you make decisions. What's in the best interest of the kids, the programs, the school. I think it gives you a bigger picture of athletic administration.
Thank you. Let's have you share with our audience one common myth about athletic administration you would like to debunk to the general public.
Probably one I mentioned earlier, where they think it's kind of a glorified supervisory job, that you just go to games and watch games, and it's way more than that. There's way more things than just watching games and supervising games. I try to interact with the kids, whether it's at practice, at school, in the hallways, asking them how school's going, how practices are going. Um, but I think the common myth, it's just a kind of glorified supervisor job, and it is way more than that.
What's your favorite part of your job, Jeff?
Um, the kids. It's always been, whether I was a coach or a teacher, it was the kids, and seeing their growth and success, um, from the start of the year or start of the season to the end, um, is the best part of my job. Seeing kids set goals and achieving those goals. Um, that's probably the greatest thing I get out of this job.
Thank you for sharing that. Let's finish up with a couple of questions. The first being this. Jeff, if you had two suggestions for a brand new athletic administrator and they needed to follow Jeff's suggestions in order to become a success, what would your two suggestions be?
Um, Probably the biggest thing is um, manage your time. You can't do everything, and you can't do it all at once. Um, that you need to manage your time, set priorities, ask for help. There are plenty of people um, in this job that have gone through what you're going through, and probably the second thing is, um, it's okay to listen to parents, because that's kind of what they really just want somebody to hear their concerns. A lot of times they don't necessarily want a solution. They just want someone to hear their concerns and um, be able to kind of help them more so than anything else.
Great suggestions. Thanks so much for sharing that. We'll finish with this. Jeff, what questions should I have asked you that I failed to ask you?
Oh my. Um, I Off the top of my head, I can't think of anything. I think the questions that you ask are great, and kind of give I guess people an understanding of what the job is and who the athletic director is at those particular schools.
Well said. On that note, that wraps up this edition of the UIAAA Connection. Again, our special guest today has been Jeff Lake, Certified Athletic Administrator, the Director of Athletics at Maple Mountain High School in Utah. Jeff, thank you so much for being on the podcast today.
Thanks, Hutch. I appreciate you inviting me.
For our listeners, we hope you tune in again next week for another edition of the UIAAA Connection.